Okay, hi everyone. Let's get started. Great to see you all. Super excited to be here today and welcome to everyone. This is our CD guest lecture series for Friday, March 26th. Um, Super excited to have a few guests with us today. We're going to start once again with a student presenter, Daphne Kanak, who is of our MPS CD class of 21, as well as a project that she did with Mo Laban, who is also class of 21. So Daphne, I'll let you take it from here and welcome.
Thank you. Let me screen share. So, hello everyone. I'm Daphne, and I'm going to be talking about a brand identity and digital product design project that I worked on with Mo last semester in Jacob Heffman's class called Typography and Interaction. We created an imaginary music festival, everything from who will be playing, the location, the brand, the name, and of course the identity we came up with. It's called MetaFest, and it's a festival that celebrates and takes inspiration from the local. So every year it's at a different location featuring artists that are from that city, and the brand identity adjusts to its location as well. We created the identity wanting it to be inspired by city life and also the alternative and DIY music culture. So we wanted the branding to be super dynamic and flexible with various possible outcomes of the combination of the design elements that's a part of it. So there's 4 logos that can be used interchangeably, and the main colors are dark gray and an off-white, and a third bright color is introduced for each city that MetaFest takes place in. And our focus with this one was New York City, and its color was green. So here's some of the posters. So with the use of the elements, a bunch of different posters can be created, and also by taking and layering these single posters with the images from the host cities, many other meta posters are created, and these are only a few of the possible outcomes that can be created based on the guidelines. We created many billboards, banners, merch items, wristbands, wayfinding signs, and these are just a few of them, but there's also some guitar picks and a branded New York City Metro card. We made a Spotify playlist featuring the artists that will be playing and social media posts, and use slogans such as like celebrate the city to really deliver the spirit of the brand. Some animated social media posts. And we created a website and an app, and we wanted the website to be informative and easy to navigate, so like the audience is able to get the information that they need about the festival and the lineup and purchase tickets. But we also wanted it to be really dynamic. So we used the layering technique that was also used for the creation of the meta posters. And there's also a merch store with all the products. We were really thinking of how these digital products would evolve, like before, during, and after the event. For example, during the event, we have an app that would act as a wallet and a ticket, and also to be able to see the schedule. But there's also a feature where you take photos during the event, but they only get developed and delivered to you on the app digitally 24 hours after the event, kind of like a disposable camera, again, inspired by like the DIY culture. And then you get to edit the photos and elements from the MetaFest with elements from the identity and share or save them on your phone. And here's some other examples of posters from some other cities just to quickly show how the identity would evolve depending on like the location. And the blue ones are Istanbul and the red ones are Berlin. And this was a really fun project to create this whole identity and like the whole package of design assets and do something that's also music related because we were really like passionate and excited about it. So thanks so much for listening.
Great.
Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing.
Daphne.
And yeah, thanks to you and to Mo as well. So yeah, I'll turn it over to Lucille Tenazas, who's going to introduce our main presenter today. Lucille, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Brendan. Hello, everybody. I'm Lucille Tenazas, and some of you may have met me, but maybe not, just because we have a virtual way of teaching these days, but I'm full-time professor at Parsons in communication design. And I'm really happy to introduce our next guest, Nikki Gonnissen. So Nikki is a graphic designer and a director of Studio Tonic, and that's Tonic with an H, which she co-founded with Thomas Vidar-Schoven in Amsterdam in 1993. So Tonic, as you will see in her presentation, has created several visual identities and has developed communication concepts and campaigns which are socially relevant, graphically strong, and flexible in its application. So one of the things that I really like about what Tonic does is that it really is a very poetic use of media. And so often the moving image serves as a starting point for graphic, digital, and spatial design. Tonic has several clients, not only in Europe, but also in Asia. And that includes the Power Station of Art in Shanghai, the M Plus Museum for Visual Culture in Hong Kong, and also the Museum Martha Herford in Germany, as well as the Spiral Art Center in Tokyo. So I would like to give more time to our conversation. As you know, we are having this sort of back and forth. And so what Nikki has created is a kind of, how can I say, a focus on 3 keywords, which she will talk about. And then after each keyword and series of projects, then we will have our conversation. So happy to welcome Nikki Gonnissen. And it is in Amsterdam, it is now 8:12 in the evening. So being beamed straight from Europe. Welcome, Nikki.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here in my own studio from Amsterdam. So let me share the screen. Hopefully that will work. So I go here and then...
Interesting, Daphne, actually, that your color palette will be a good segue to Nikki's presentation, and you will see why.
But I must say, I lost my keynote here. I can't find it. Maybe because, where did it go?
Go to your desktop, Nikki.
It is. I go on. Yeah. I'm on my desktop, but perhaps I didn't close it when.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see it now. There you go. Right, Daphne? Look at that.
So, hello, everybody. Like Lucille said that we are focusing on 3 keywords. The first one is local. So I want to start with a little film. It was made by the legendary filmmaker Ed van der Elske in 1982. And I was 15 years old at that time. And well, at the very end, you will see me biking through the city. So please take a look. Yeah, this is me. but these two are really great. Look at them. So typical for the Dutch is that they don't accept authority. And I think the Dutch also really think they are very open-minded somehow. So Amsterdam is our home. I grew up in this city of liberties and freedom. And yeah, well, 20 years later, well, no, yeah, 20 years ago, Thomas and I, my partner, Lucille introduced him already, we are partners in work and life. We found that as citizens of Amsterdam, it was very hard to find our way in the city government because they had so many identities and so many logos that we thought it was a mess, and we wrote a letter to the mayor asking to make a new identity for the city of Amsterdam. And when we got the job, in our research, we saw that they were using the 3 crosses, which is the medieval coat of arms, but the 3 crosses were used for many logos, like the Sex Museum in Amsterdam and the Broodje van Dobbe's snack bar, and many different things. So we thought we wanted to make a very simple logo and identity, which was clear and simple and understandable and easy to recognize. So from 55 logos for 55 services and boroughs, we went to only 1 logo, simple logo, the 3 crosses. So here you see the 3 crosses, and in this next film, we had to meet with 50 directors and many civil servants to convince them of this strategy. And it took us an afternoon, for instance, to make the design, but it took a year to implement the whole thing. But still, it works really well, and everybody can find its way, and everybody now knows the 3 crosses of Amsterdam, and we're still working on it, and it's still really, we're very happy that we could make this identity for our own city. The next project here is our own studio. We managed to build and design our own working space, and it was ready last year during COVID. And well, it's a 3-dimensional manifesto of our design philosophy, let's say, which has a sort of a socially relevant, but it's also a certain aesthetics. Let's say it's a playful take on modernism. And you see here that the lines on the facade refer to the Maxilent, which is the typeface designed by Lance Wyman for the Mexico Olympic Games in '68. And the big floor to ceiling windows, they connect inside and outside. And upstairs, these are some spaces in the studio. This is where I am now. This is the event space where we want to organize debates and workshops on every topic which we find interesting and urgent. And downstairs, there is this sake bar and an omakase restaurant. It's a merging of architecture and graphic design. And it's a collaborative project. And again, it's a dream come true for us, driven by passion. And so hopefully from next year, when the pandemic is a bit gone, we can fill it with a lot of nice debates and clients and fun, because at the moment it's empty. The Holland Festival is a client we work for already for 6 or 7 years. The Holland Festival bring the best international performing arts every year to Amsterdam. You see here the Rijksmuseum in the back. They were established in 1947 with the aim to give people beauty and inspiration after the World War. And now they address urgent topics on being open to the world. And it's all about diversity and the exchange of cultures. Yeah. It's also a very important a project for the design field in the Netherlands. So in '71, it was Dick Elvers who did the design. Wim Krauwel designed the Holland Festival, Anton Beke, Marijn Mooren and Daniel van der Velde later on. So we were really pleased we could work on this project. And we decided to build on what they already had done for the Holland Festival. So you see here the logo from Anton Beke. the Holland Festival logo, he took out in the 90s all the vowels. And in the next film you see, oh, sorry. Yeah, no, sorry. Okay, that we try to take away even more. So we made a combination of ligatures and stencil. So this is a ligature, the H and the F merged together. And by taking out even more, it became a combination of those two. And in this typeface, we could set the whole program and HF and the logo of the Holland Festival together. So the first year, we focused only on the identity we developed there. But a year later, we could focus more on an international scope. So the theme was Borders of Europe, and the Holland Festival was performing a lot of artists from Ukraine, France, Syria, and so on. So we could make abbreviations from those countries and use them in the campaign. For the 2017 edition, we started from motion graphics, and we developed a coding where the program and the graphics were. It was also their 70th year anniversary, and we could we took stills of the coding to put on the two-dimensional media like trams and the board and the banners you see in the back. For the theme of the 2018 edition, that was again borders. We decided to use the H and F, which are the white blocks. And we wanted to show that the borders of Europe were falling down or build up, and they were looking for new space and directions. And we took stills for the posters in the city. I don't have them here, but in the back you see also stills from the motion graphics on the banners. And also again, we used facades and the trams for our falling blocks. And then the last edition of the Holland Festival, oh no, this is 2019. We also did 20. This is 2019. The existing typeface, we expanded with 4 weights. And in the campaign, we overlaid all the type weights, and we could make HF. We saw suddenly, using a circle, we saw suddenly a mask into this image. So the HF became masks. And that communicated the theme of that year, which was identity and identity politics. And again, also in the city, on the place where the events were. And here you see 5 posters in a row. And last year, the festival was completely online, and because of COVID. And the theme was racism and gender equality. And that was spot on after the protest around the death of George Floyd in the United States, in your country. And Bill T. Jones was the guest curator, and we made a movie with the title, Me, We, Welcome.
His face is a study in winter, in the miles-deep heat beneath the surface. His face is a tribal mask bearing the crest of our family's fate.
So this is the end of the first local chapter, because these projects were all based and made in Amsterdam. And I think this is our first question, Lucille. The pandemic, or maybe a statement or whatever, the pandemic has forced us to think locally and more regional. And maybe we can start our conversation here. So I stop sharing my screen then, huh?
Yes,
That's how we do it.
go ahead.
Where is my mouse?
There's a stop share.
Yeah, my mouse is
We're
gone.
there, stop share.
Yeah, no. I don't know why it doesn't work, because my mouse is not in my reach.
It's
somehow.
okay, we can, if you want to just be a little bit small, I mean, we can figure that out.
I don't mind. Whatever you guys
Okay.
think is a good way is a
Okay.
good.
So thank you, Nikki, for that first phase of our conversation. And I wanted to ask you first that, you know, obviously you have, oh, there you go. I can see I can see your big face now. You're the whole screen. Yeah, it worked.
Okay, I don't see anybody,
Okay.
but it's okay.
Okay. So the idea, when you talk about the local projects that you were working on, obviously, you know, you have the Holland Festival, and also the identity for the city of Amsterdam, the range of projects that you have done dealing with civil servants, I guess, bureaucrats, and then you have the other at the other end of the spectrum, these clients who are who are propagating cultural and international events. So that, I think, is really symptomatic of the things I've seen coming out of the Netherlands since the 70s. You know, the design from the Netherlands, Holland, has been so, I think for designers, like when we were young designers, looking up to what was going on in Europe, it was really the work coming out of the Netherlands. Why do you think there's such a critical mass, and that the possibility of doing design in the way that you've done it is so hospitable in a country like the Netherlands? What is it about you? I mean, you mentioned it at the beginning about the country is known for its sense of freedom, liberties, etc. So, and you're native to the country, so you're coming from within.
That's a difficult question, because also that changed, of course, also in Amsterdam. But still, when I travel around, I feel so lucky I grew up in Amsterdam, because I still feel this sense of liberties and freedom, because it has always been a multicultural city with lots of opportunities. I don't know. I don't really know. I think maybe the Netherlands is a very tiny country, and we are very much open to the outside world, because, you know, everybody speaks English, because the Dutch is a difficult language, and because we are so small, we are depending on other countries. So maybe that's also a reason that we've always been open, and since we are so tiny, and we are the sort of the place where all the rivers come together from the mountains, from Switzerland, etc. We are below sea level, so we are very used to be independent, because we used to live on small islands. But we also were very collaborative together, because we had to conquer the water together. So big water projects arose in the 50s after when the floods, when the Netherlands were almost you know, with the water flooded all over. Yeah. So I don't know. I think there is this sense of collaboration, and also a very independency somehow. So this sort of dualistic thing, I don't know if this has something to do with that mentality. But I guess we are open-minded. Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
Well, it's certainly different in America. I mean, you know, you have competing allegiances, competing, you know, the states alone, you know, you have different ways of, you know, the political structures in each of these states causes so many political problems.
But the United States, that's the real difference. We are so small. You're so huge. It's you cannot compare it. And of course, the countryside in your country is so immense. We don't have nature. We are one city. The Netherlands is one city because it's so small. So almost, you know, we don't have nature. We don't have, so it's only people. Yeah. So I guess we wanted to break out of that. It felt really limited to be just Dutch, you know.
Well, so you showed a slide towards the end of your presentation about the pandemic. And I know that, you know, when I introduced you, you had several clients overseas. What do you think being in lockdown? And I don't know if you still have a curfew, because the last time I spoke to you, I think there was a curfew at 9 o'clock and you could only go out if you were walking a dog. So dogs are being rented out for people to.
We have a dog.
You have a dog.
Is coming to get me here with the dog when I go home.
So what do you think has made your practice as a designer now? You know, coming from a small country, coming also or being limited in the ways that you are expanding or practicing design beyond the borders. How is that affected the way you work? I mean, obviously your building that you said is empty because of the pandemic and you're not able to host events there.
Yeah, well, at the moment in lockdown, I don't know if that was your question, but we feel that we really have to reorientate our scope, because we do more projects in the Netherlands again. We do more projects in the region, like in Antwerp, Belgium, and what we do most is that we work a lot with startups and scale-ups in the Netherlands, and that's a real challenge, and that's super good, because we feel that, like for instance, I will show you later the project for Yoni. It's a brand for tampons without toxics and chemicals. For instance, we work for a startup called Dime. And that's an app to get better control of your finances. And also for Common Land, which is an organization who is focused on restoring landscapes and biodiversity. So I have the feeling that a lot of people during this pandemic start to look at their own surroundings much more clearer. And they feel that they have to, you know, that they want to change. There is a sort of, you know, they want to do it different. And I think that there are a lot of many young people who are fed up with this economic system, which is based on competition. And they want to sort of give a meaningful contribution based on collaboration. And in those people who work in small initiatives, we want to support that and want to help to make them really visible. And that's our challenge, and we really enjoy that at the moment. So that's the good thing about the going back.
So that was the silver. I'm sorry. So that's the silver lining in that you were, even as you were restricted in, you know, dealing with your other clients overseas, you started to focus more inwardly and then work on projects maybe that with the small startups that you said perhaps they would not have been able to go to you before, but now they're the ones that you are tapping, you know, to collaborate with, and are being given freedom, even more freedom, creative freedom.
Exactly, yeah, I think so. And because it's based on collaboration instead of economics and money, because they feel they want to change something for the better. So there is more social benefit than economical benefit. Yeah. And that makes it the atmosphere so much nicer in a way. And well, I think we work with young people. It's great. It's
Tell me about it. I work with young people all the time. It keeps me young.
Exactly.
People know that, right?
Lucille, what's happening at Parsons in that sense? And what's happening in New York when you're also in the pandemic? Are you also reoriented? Do you feel the same trends that people want to change things in a different way?
Well, I think this generation of young people are actually more vigilant. They're also very, how can I say, you know, they're the ones in the front. You know, when people say, yeah, students are the ones that are activated, it gives us, I think, you know, my older generation gives me hope. You know, that, you know, if you look at the world, it's falling apart, you know, sustainability issues, climate change, et cetera, et cetera. but that's why I think I think that I'm really interested in how you would parlay, your values, you, Nikki Gonnissen, your value system as a designer and as a citizen of the world to this young people, in New York. I mean, at least, for us, we the way we're teaching now is obviously all done remotely, but we see, I speak for myself, I just see silver linings in that, and some, I have two students here in this group, Daphne being one of them, and Mo, they were the ones that gave the initial presentation. And Brendan runs this program. I had 28 students last semester. And so I have never had that much number of students, but important for me to connect with them in the way that I would never have been able to connect with them face to face, in person. So I do feel that giving them a voice in spite of the medium, in spite of the limitations of the medium, make me, in fact, a better educator, that I feel that I am, in fact, engaging them. So, I'm just saying that from the point of view of somebody who's been teaching this now for a year, and my colleagues who are sitting in on this conversation will, most likely agree with me.
Yeah.
So I think we're ready for your second keyword, Nikki, which is the next word.
Let me see how I get there again. So I start share screening again, and I go here, and okay.
There you go. We got it.
Yeah. So let me see. So the next keyword is global. Of course, after local, we go global. What we noticed traveling around the world and working in Asia, for instance, is that working and interacting on a global scale really changed our perspective on life. And well, I show you a couple of projects. The first one is for the Power Station of Art in Shanghai. And when we started to work for that museum, we tried to strengthen the exchange between Chinese and Western culture. You see that this is an old power plant, like the Tate Modern in London. And now China is becoming the biggest economy in the world. We think it's important that there is an engagement between cultures so we can learn from each other. The logo represents the museum, as you can see. It was made by Hope Sun, a Chinese designer, and we opened up the logo. And by the way, the Chinese character means Dang, which is Dang, which means contemporary, and it's a museum for contemporary art. So we opened up the logo and we into a sort of a toolbox with a play of lines. And with that toolbox, we could react on the art, and we could make illustrations with it and use it as structuring elements, like you see here. But for us, it was even more important to bring the Chinese and the Western text in an equal balance. So here you see that we used a separate baseline for the Chinese text because the Chinese text is slightly bigger and also a bit lighter. And in this way, we balanced the text equally, so we could see them as equal partners. On the posters, you see here, we always use the Western and the Chinese text on the same grid, and we use the elements of the toolbox to make illustrations. And yeah, these are different posters, and you see that they are attacking the art, they're structuring it, and they frame it. And even the plane is flying into the elements. Well, I'm not going to explain that. And next to it, you see that the Chinese characters are using the elements as well from the toolbox. And for this exhibition, Body Media, we developed a tool where the toolbox, the elements react on your mouse. And you can see also the elements on clothes and how it works, the graphics on the building. So the next project is a workshop. It was, I was asked at the university in Istanbul to do a workshop And it was in 2015 when many refugees from Syria came to Istanbul. And there were at that time also a lot of terrorist attacks and citizen protests, and there was even an attempted coup. And it all happened at the same time. And it felt really frightening to walk on the streets of Istanbul with all those policemen with big machine guns. And I thought it would be so good to turn something really negative into something optimistic or positive somehow. So I asked the students from the university, the design students, to get in touch with the refugee and design a personal flag for him or her. And I asked them to make this flag that truly represent their person. So we went to this school where refugees had English lesson. And here you see that the students try to connect, and they had to make new friends, a friend. And you see that, for instance, this guy on the left is the student and on the right is the refugee. And here the same, the left is the student and right refugee, but you cannot see the difference. They're all the same people, you know, they're young and with hope and optimism, although they had really difficult problems while fleeing from Syria and leaving everything behind. So after that day, the students went back to school and started to work on their flags for their new friends. And you can see here, for instance, that there was this guy who was in a bomb attack, and he made this white bird, and he took his head off. And I said, like, oh, how can you do something like that? You know, maybe it's better to come up with something which really gives hope. And well, so in this way, we were talking about the designs. 2 days later, we invited the refugees to the Bosporus, to the academy. And then the students offered the flag they made for their friend and told them the story why they did this. So here you see the left guy made this for the right guy. And he was the one who was in a bomb attack. And here you see the left girl made it for the right girl, and she told her that her whole family was in prison. And she told her that the blue, you see the blue cubus square, it's opening up, and then it says hope in Arabic. And the white field represents a white space, a sort of hope. And so it was, yeah, also here you could see that that it was justice for all humanity, because this woman or girl was studying law and she had to stop her study because of the war and go to Istanbul. This guy, the left guy, he came from Syria and he was an interpreter and he could speak all the languages. And the left guy made a flag for him with "We are all one" in all the languages. And then they were sort of very connected, and he gave this bracelet to him as a present. Well, so each flag has his own story. This one was really nice. The right guy, he's only 18 years old, and he had to leave everything behind, his family. But he was such a communicator. He was talking all the time, and he said, "I'm going to change the world with my speech." And the left guy, he was the student, but he was so shy. So he could not even tell why he made this speech bubble with the key within to success. So he took the whole, the other guy took the whole conversation. And here, this was quite intriguing because the right guy, he laid in the sea for 8 hours. And the left guy made his flag with the waves. So one line represents one wave of the sea in 1 hour. And in the end, it says hope. The white sign means hope. Well, so this is what's happening. And it was great energy. And yeah, I think the atmosphere was really positive despite all the sentiments and the sometimes really sad and individual stories of hardship and escape. So that was this project, and here you see sort of connection. And this was the guy from 18 years, and he said to me, "Oh my, this was the most beautiful day in my life." And that was I was really so proud of this workshop that we did it. And they are still in touch on Facebook. And every time I post something or they post something in between, we are reacting on one another. And that's now 6 years ago. So yeah, maybe it's sometimes you can do only a small project, but it can have a huge personal impact for that moment. So I think we're already in the next statement or whatever it is. The most enriching thing in life is to learn from other cultures. How do we stay connected in a world which is so complex? Because that is the case, of course, that the world is getting more complex every time.
Well, so Nikki, you gave really two excellent examples of what it means to be global. One as a client, one as a designer for a client overseas in China, in this case, and then one where you are in a way the facilitator for these for students to meet somebody of their same age, same but the difference being that one is a refugee. And so to be able to interpret what those feelings and emotions are in a flag through your I guess through you being the facilitator. So I see the dual role here of what a global impact can consist of. In the first example, where you are the designer for a client from another culture, I'm curious, when you are approached by somebody from a different culture, a different country, and this happens all the time, obviously, for designers who are doing projects for where they are brought in, or I call it parachuted in, because obviously sometimes they see your work, they're seduced by the work, they see it online. What kind of what process do you undertake so that you're aware of the fact, or at least what you get from them is not just you being hired because it's a beauty contest, that they understand that your role, as a kind of interpreter of their needs and their ideas can be authentic, even if you're not from that culture?
Yeah, maybe we are able to break barriers in another culture because we are from abroad. I think there is something. That's what you mean, do you?
Yeah, I'm curious about
Yeah.
that, because you're the outsider being
I'm the
brought in.
outsider at that time. Yeah, and on the other hand, for us, it's so important that we feel, when we go to Asia, for instance, we feel we travel to the future, and it gives us a sort of, literally, it gives us more space. Again, because we're from the Netherlands, where everything is fixed, and so sort of like, we really have to break our way to find some space. And that's such a good feeling, because they want to look at us. They are curious to what we are doing, and we are curious to them, so that's a fantastic situation. So there is a sort of mutual respect and an openness for both sides. And then, of course, we start to collaborate, which we cannot without their local people. I mean, we don't know their culture, so they have to show us the way. And for instance, for the Power Station of Art, we closely worked with Chinese typographers, because we don't know how to typeset Chinese. And we also worked closely with craftsmanship people, and so there's a real collaboration going on then. Mm-hmm. And that's why we learn so much from those cultures. And I think and they like our work, and for them it's interesting to see what they can do with people from abroad. I don't know. It's a sort of curious attitude from both sides, I guess.
Yeah, I think that it's like the fascination for the other is really what I'm seeing here. I mean, and this is, designers are not alone in being brought into other countries to either to westernize it, especially if it's like from somebody from the West going to another culture in the East, in Asia, and specifically. So I'm curious, in fact, and I know this is that reciprocal relationship is also happening, where you have Asian architects, designers are being brought in also to Europe, so that there is equal exchange.
Yeah, and also a lot of Asian students go abroad to study in the United States, for instance, and they bring back their experiences to their countries, which is so it's enriching. It's I think it's definitely good for everybody to share those experiences, because you share the same values, but also the differences, and from the differences you learn about your own country and your own background. And yeah,
well, that's certainly relevant to us, at least at Parsons, because we have a big population of students from Asia.
Abroad,
so I think what you're saying, makes sense and is relevant.
So, but
I think
also, I want to say that also the globalization has also its counter side. There's also another side, because a lot of traveling is so great around the world, but maybe the last years we also saw that there was such a big division between people. They don't feel connected anymore. So there is also another side to the globalization. They feel that they're not neglected, that they're lost, that they're not heard somehow. And those sentiments of hatred and public anger, that's of course horrible and difficult to deal with. I mean, that really worries me, for instance. So that's the other side of globalization. And even, of course, also because of social media, the world is so complex and so open, and people see the difference between rich and poor, and they want, it's I don't know what to do with that. So maybe there's also something we should solve somehow together in dialogue, I guess.
Well, let's just hope that in our lifetimes, Nikki, a president of a country is a design person.
Exactly.
Maybe that will happen.
That would be really good. Yeah.
So the third theme that you want to address, I think, covers a lot of overarching themes that you have addressed in the local and global. So why don't we go to that one, the social?
The social, yeah.
Yes.
Social graphic design is a power for change. Okay, so I want to start this block with an artist who is for me so inspirational. I think this is a beautiful example of, in this case, art in society. We know her, everybody knows her, of course, Kusama. She paints walls, floors, trees, and herself and friends with polka dots. And I like to read a little bit of this manifesto, which says nudism is one thing that doesn't cost anything. Clothes cost money, poverty costs money, taxes cost money, only the dollar costs less. Let's protect the dollar by economizing. Let's tighten our belts. Let's throw away our belts. Let the pants fall where they may. And I think that with this happening on the Brooklyn Bridge, she uses the nude or nakedness as a protest to change society against capitalism. It's from the 60s. And
Nikki, do you have an image? There's no image. I think I recall seeing image. Yeah, when you were quoting Yayoi Kusama, because she had a show here.
You still don't see anything?
We didn't see anything.
Oh, and do you see now anything?
No.
That's strange.
Are you clicking on the?
Now you see me again.
I see you. So let me see. Well, how did you figure that out earlier when you were going through the first and second themes?
Now let's try again. Do you see
yep,
now?
Now it is. Now
okay.
We see it. Excellent.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay, social. Then I immediately go to this Brooklyn Bridge protest. Well, you heard what I said about it.
So where is Yayoi Kusama? Oh, she's right there in the foreground.
Yeah, she's in the foreground using nakedness as a protest. And she also traveled to Amsterdam. And here you see her, she put some polka dots on Jan Schoonhoven, who is a Dutch artist, and he's a very well-known artist with a lot of work in the Stedelijk Museum. And she also had some happenings in the Stedelijk Museum as well. This is in 1965, by the way. So another example of an artist who uses nakedness to evoke change was Phil Bloom, and she's a Dutch artist. And the next film is from 1967, and that was the year I was born. And there you see Phil Bloom naked on television. And that was the first time there was a nude on international television.
I guess I started a war, and I don't care if you better talk, 'cause I'm a sad man. I have a living, baby. She daughter love me. She said that I'm the end. Mary, don't you hurry, baby. We just gotta wait. But she'll be ready for love. And she'll be a supreme featherweight, 'cause I'm a sad man.
So this was an uproar in society. You cannot imagine. So the whole world was like, it was everywhere in the newspaper. Such a fuss that a blonde goes on TV in naked. And so what happened in the Netherlands, we have a strange public system with 3 channels. And the more members you have, the more airtime you get. So the network, the members of the network, the VPRO, they wanted to stop, they wanted to take this program off the air. But they said, no, we're not going to do this. And in this piece of film, you see that she's reading out the letters loud. And now she's in protest. So the first film was a film of when she was in a sort of a paradise mood. But now she's protesting.
De aflevering van Hoepla zal in ieder geval op de schermen komen.
Nikki, this was also on TV. This was, the response.
Yes, yes. And the network even brands the nude lady with their logo here, you see. So that's quite a statement, isn't it? For 1967, it's a long time ago. Anyway.
And you're continuing that.
We're continuing that in a way because
in the project.
Well, first I want to show this poster, which is for the pacifistic Socialist Party from 1971, and it's the most, for me, a lot of people. It's a classic. People in the Netherlands really love this poster, and it's for Dutch politics. And the tagline down there, it reads "disarming," and in Dutch, disarming has a double meaning. It means dropping your weapons, and also being naive and cute and charming. But the whole thing
is
the
same in America. It's the same in English.
Okay. And the right image was last week in Amsterdam during the demonstrations. So the nude or the naked person still used to, until today for protest somehow. Okay, the next film is a film we made for the Socialist Party in 2006. So we felt that we had to work for politics as designers when there was a political murder in the Netherlands in 2002. There was this guy, Pim Fortuyn. He was a right-wing politician, and he was murdered by a left-wing activist. And he was gaining a lot of votes. And we always thought that the Netherlands was such a small country, murders and things like that didn't happen in our country. So we were all shocked. And he was murdered on the place where the media is, the television place. He was going to do an interview. And that was the time we thought, now we have to do something in politics. We have to make the debate more alive. And we started to work for the Socialist Party because they really tried to bridge the gap between the people and politics. And they represent a large group in the Netherlands who don't get equal chances in life. And so the next film, you will see an old lady, and it's for home care. The problem was that in home care, every handling of the older person was done by somebody else to save money. So in the end, they got 10 people in their houses, one to do the stocking, one to do the cleaning, one to do the medicine, and that felt like an invasion.
So Nikki, we only have a few minutes left, so if you want to speed up.
Okay, I'm ready. After this one. What do we have here?
For years, Mary has been there to help me wash. But Mary is too expensive, so they say. Now some stranger cares for me. And after that, another stranger. I might as well undress in front of the nation.
So Nikki, do you want to go to the project for Yoni?
Yoni, do you
Yeah.
still want to do that? Is it?
I mean,
didn't
you
know.
could go quickly, and then I think, and then we'll wrap up after that. So
Okay.
maybe the last 5 minutes. I know that
Okay.
if there are people who want to ask questions, I'm not sure if we can entertain.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, very quickly, Yoni is. There was this two young ladies. One of them they came to us. One of them had cervical cancer, and she thought, "What am I?" They are a startup, so they're young ladies, and she said, "What am I putting in my body every month?" So they developed a tampon without toxics and chemicals, and we developed this name Yoni, which is Sanskrit for vagina, and you also see the Y represents the female body, of course. And next to the packages, it was for us important to start a dialogue around the taboo for the female circle and the monthly periods. And we invited young female artists and designers to make images and small movies to start a discussion on Instagram. And this film was made by one of the designers, young designers. And here you see some pictures. And these are all made for Instagram. And posters. And that's it, Lucille. Can graphic design empower us to build a better world? I don't know. But we don't have much time left, do we? Lucille, you're unmuted.
So Kelly, how much time do we have? If I just want to wrap up.
We can add a few more couple of minutes
Okay.
here if there's any questions.
Well, the wrap up for me is really about two things: education, because Nikki and I both teach. We are educators, and so she's here in front of us and our students. She's taught at the Rietveld Academy, the Design Academy in Eindhoven, and also now currently teaching at the Royal Academy in The Hague. But what's interesting for me is that the reason I know Nikki, and for some of you who maybe are familiar with this, she and I are members of AGI, which is Alliance Graphique Internationale, and it is an international organization that has about 500 or so members representing 46 countries. And it is obviously now 70 years old. And Nikki was the president 4 years ago for a 3-year, was it 2-year? And I have to say, Nikki was only the third female president in the organization's 70-year history. Paula Scher was also a president prior. But the reason I call that out is that it all comes together when Nikki was talking about global, local, and social, her values, her interests. It was through Nikki's presidency that we started to bring in members from other parts of the world. It used to be heavily Western, heavily European, and heavily male. But when Nikki became the president, we had membership. Suddenly we opened it up to India, to Vietnam, to Thailand. That design is really the sort of international practice. And so it was thanks to her and her kind of value system of coming from a small country, but is looking outwardly into the world, globally, and how its impact is in fact, not limited. Design's impact is not just limited to the West. So I wanted to just leave you, Nikki, with the final words, and then to talk about that, what leadership means to you, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Well, leadership, what does it mean to me? That it's not top down, that it's a sort of that we are. I think leadership, it's important to give space to the new generation, that it's about the future, and that it's never about self-importance, but it's about trying to connect and help to start a dialogue, because only then we can solve bigger problems in the world about inequalities or gender or race problems. So as long we are all flat and taking responsibility and collaborate on an equal level, that's for me really leadership, and embrace our imperfectness, and that we are able to doubt, and that it's not only that we try to be honest. So I think also in teaching, we find that back. We are not, the older generation is not longer the generation, the sort of teachers who pass knowledge to the younger generation. No, we collaborate, because they, or you guys, know everything about the new technology, and we should exchange to experiment and find new ways to build our society. So I think that's that message somehow. What do you think, Lucille? Because I remember I saw this really nice film of you, and where they said you were an empathic problem solver, and I think empathy is really important, because only then you can hear, when you take a step back and listen to people, then you can really solve something, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think that's exactly what, it's about. As you said, it's reciprocal. Just because we're teachers doesn't mean that we know everything. And that, as you said, look at the project you did in Turkey. I mean, the fact that those students engaged among themselves, between themselves, that enlarged their vision of the world. And so for me, that they taught you many things. You were there to make it happen. You shepherded the whole process. So anyway. I want to thank you, Nikki, for participating with us, coming all the way. Now it's what, 7 o'clock? No, I don't know what time it is there, 9 o'clock.
Thank you so much. I hope there are questions. I don't know if we have still time for questions.
Well, I will leave it to my colleagues here if they want to field some questions, or if they have questions themselves.
I don't know if those that are in the call have questions. We'll kind of wait a second and see.
There are no faces. We only see names and initials. We have to guess what L means or what C means, right? Are there any questions?
I see something in the chat.
That was, I think, that was Kelly. Oh no, wait a minute. Was there something in the chat?
I don't see anything in the chat, but
it was Daphne saying amazing. I think she was responding to your project in Turkey.
Yeah, I think that was a comment through the presentation, but I just wanted to say thank you so much, Nikki, for sharing your work. And again, sort of the conversation between you and Lucille was great to hear and think about. The context of your work and thinking about international sort of relations across and collaborations with folks that are in design. So I don't personally have any questions, but I just wanted to say thank you for coming and being part of our community.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It was an honor. It was
Yeah.
nice.
If everyone who is here can do a hand clap reaction, we can do that, or confetti, right?
I see
all the reactions we can get. There we go.
We
so that is the round of applause that you would have heard if you were in person. So
well,
thank you.
Hopefully next time we can do it live and we can embrace each other again. That would be so nice.
Yes, that would be great.
We'd like to go to your building and to take have an event in the top floor or whatever.
Oh, that would be so nice if you could come and visit us. Really great.
Well, thank you again, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.